Alright, everybody, how are we doing today? Time for the Middle Eastern news. Oh, isn't it so fun? But according to Reuters, Syrian Kurds accuse Turkey of violations. Russia says peace plan on track. Well, I hope they're right. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, accused Turkey on Thursday of launching a large land offensive targeted 3 villages in northeast Syria despite a truce, but Russia said a peace plan hammered out this week was going ahead smoothly. Well, we'll see how much we can really trust Putin, which I don't think is much. Under the plan agreed by Presidents Tayyip Erdogan and Vladimir Putin, Syrian Kurdish forces are to withdraw more than 30 kilometers from the Turkish border, a goal Russia's RIA news agency, quoting an SDF official, said was already achieved. Russia said it was sending more military, police, and heavy equipment to help implement the deal, which has already prompted U.S. President Donald Trump to lift sanctions against Turkey and drawn lavish praise for Erdogan in the Turkish media. Ankara views the Kurdish YPG militia, the main component in the SDF, as terrorists linked to Kurdish insurgents in southeast Turkey. It launched a cross-border offensive against them on October 9th, after Trump ordered U.S. forces out of northeast Syria. A decision I agree with because it's none of our business. This is the mess the Europeans made. This is not for us to take care of. However, I will say that the way he achieved the pullout was not the right way to do it. He should have taken a more delicate approach. With some more subtlety, probably pulled out incrementally. And of course, it's not like he's actually ending the Middle Eastern wars, he's just positioning the soldiers elsewhere. Go figure. Like I said, I've already played devil's advocate. I said that maybe he's just doing what he can, and that there are still imperialist elements in our government that aren't letting him make changes right away. He's doing what he can get away with. Just a thought. I mean, I could be wrong. Hell, I probably am wrong. But, let's just entertain the possibility. Who knows? The deal agreed with Putin, which builds on and widens a previous U.S. brokered ceasefire, helped end the fighting. So Putin's going to make peace. Interesting. But the SDF said in its statement on Thursday that Turkish forces had attacked 3 villages outside the area of the ceasefire process, forcing thousands of civilians to flee. Despite our forces' commit to the ceasefire decision and withdrawal of our forces from the entire ceasefire area, the Turkish state and the terrorist factions allied to it are still violating the ceasefire process, it said. Our forces are still clashing, it said, urging the United States to intervene to halt their renewed fighting. Question is, after we've pulled out, are we even going to bother going back in? Is this a decision that is so easily reversed? And you think the SDF is violating the agreement? Well, I'm sure that's no surprise. It seems like all these sorts of Middle Eastern forces are prone to a certain measure of zealotry. And of course, in the issue of zealotry is, many zealots are completely unreasonable. They will not listen to reason. They think they're right about everything. It's almost like a mental illness in of itself. Anyway, Turkey's defense ministry did not comment directly on the SDF report, but said 5 of its military personnel had been wounded in an attack on the YPG militia around the border town of Ras Al Ain, near where the 3 villages are located. Turkey previously said it reserved the right to self-defense against any militants who remain in the area, despite the truce, a pledge pleaded by Erdogan on Thursday. If these terrorists don't pull back and continue their provocations, we will implement our plans for a new offensive there, he said in a speech to local administrators. Separately, the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Peterson, told Reuters that the ceasefire seemed to be holding by and large as major powers gather in Geneva ahead of the first meeting of Syria's Constitutional Committee next week. Everything is being implemented. Russia, which is as close of an ally of President Bashar al-Assad, has emerged as the key geopolitical player in Syria, has begun deploying military police near the Turkish border as part of the deal agreed on Tuesday in the Russian city of Sochi. We note with the satisfaction of the agreements reached in Sochi are being implemented, Interfax news agency quoted Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Vereshinin as saying. Everything is being implemented. We are implementing all measure. RIA, citing an SDF official, said the Kurdish fighters had already withdrawn to 32 kilometers away from the border. It also said the Kurds were ready to discuss joining the Syrian army once the crisis in Syria had been settled politically. Russia will send a further 276 military police officers and 33 units of military hardware to Syria in a week. RIA news agency cited defense ministry sources saying it also quoted Russia's defense ministry as saying Russian military police had patrolled along a new 60-kilometer route on the border. The Russians are actually putting an impressive effort to find peace, but it looks like the YPG and the SDF are definitely compromising that. They just can't seem to put the guns down and get along, can they? It's incredible. They're just going to find a way around, try and find a way around any agreement, because that's how badly they hate each other, it would seem. These people are absolutely ridiculous. How do you even work with folks like this? I mean, for God's sake, just leave them. It's not worth it. No matter what you try, they're just going to keep at it. It's pointless. I mean, if they're really this dedicated to blowing each other up, I mean, what is even the point of putting in the effort? Is Russia wasting its time? I think it might be. Next Tuesday, under the terms of the Sochi deal, Russian and Turkish forces will start to patrol a 10-kilometer strip of land in northeast Syria where U.S. troops had been deployed for years along with former Kurdish allies. The arrival of the Russian police marks a shift in the regional balance of power just 2 weeks after Trump began pulling out. U.S. forces, a move criticized in Washington and elsewhere as a betrayal of the Americans' former Kurdish allies. Turkey's military operation was also widely condemned by its NATO allies, which said it was causing a fresh humanitarian crisis in Syria's 8-year conflict and could let Islamic State prisoners held by the YPG escape and regroup. The Russian deployments have also further highlighted increasingly close ties between Russia and NATO member Turkey. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper, speaking in Brussels on Thursday ahead of a NATO meeting, said Turkey, which annoyed Washington this year by buying Russian-made S-400 missiles defense system, was moving in the wrong direction. We see them spinning closer to Russia's orbit than in the Western orbit, and I think this is unfortunate, Esper said. Here's the thing. We weren't actually making any progress when we were over there. The Russians are better at being the world police than we are. I'm not even kidding. They're actually trying to broker a peace, and they might succeed. Did we ever try anything like that? Not successfully. They've made a lot more progress, and people are a lot more willing to work with Russia than they are to work with us. Some boogeyman, right? Since everyone likes to make a boogeyman out of Russia anymore. But despite Trump's lifting of sanctions on Turkey, distrust persists between Ankara and Washington, and top Erdogan aide on Thursday criticized U.S. politicians for treating SDF commander Mazloum Kobani as a legitimate political figure. The aide, Feratin Altan, told Reuters that Mazloum was a senior leader of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which has waged a decade-long insurgency in southeast Turkey and which Ankara's Western allies also deem a terrorist group. Republican Democratic U.S. senators urged the State Department Wednesday to quickly provide a visa to Mazloum so he can visit the United States to discuss the situation in Syria. The Turkish public has shown strong support for the military operation, encouraged by an overwhelmingly pro-government media. The superpower of peace, Turkey, said the main headline in Thursday's edition of the pro-government Sabah newspaper. The incursion has deepened a sense of alienation, however, among Turkey's Kurds, which is also being fueled by a crackdown on the country's main pro-Kurdish party. Kurds make up some 18% of Turkey's 82 million people. Only 18%. That is a minority. It's a way of human civilization. Has always been the minority bends to the majority. But it should be, and that's how it should be. That's only natural. But the majority also needs to not be cruel to the minority. And they need to respect their needs and make sure that those needs can be met by that minority, i.e. equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. And really, think about the people we were backing up. We were literally backing up a side that pretty much everyone else agreed were terrorists. Think about that. Were we really helping anyone over there? I don't think we were. Russia has been making more progress in that area. Again, some boogeyman. I think the withdrawal was the right decision. I just disagree with how quickly and how hastily it was done. But that's Trump, I guess. He does everything like that. And, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything kind of starts to look like a nail. And then pretty soon, you have all the subtlety of a freaking hurricane. Which is to say you have no subtlety whatsoever. Sometimes I think Trump is like a great big kid, to be honest. He's a child. Anyway, peace.